brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement Studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking host, the good old boys.
Welcome to Sips, Suds, and Smokes, where everything good in life is worth discussing. I am your host, good old boy Mike. I want to thank you for joining us for this really great episode on Spanish wines. Hey, just a minute before we get going about that sip segment, if you've not checked out our contest that's in progress for a magical t-shirt, you should definitely hop on our Facebook page and take a look at it. Hopefully you'll be able to enroll and win one of those magical t-shirts, and hopefully you'll get a chance to get the tab picked up right on us. All the information is right there on our Facebook page. We have a lot of great information on our Facebook page all the time, so definitely hope you'll join us on there. Hey, if you haven't checked out our sip segments before here on Sip, Suds, and Smokes, we'll be tasting and discussing these wines today and rating them with these Sips ratings, plus our signature sounds. So listen, if we haven't gone through these in a while, you can check them out right now. Our Sips ratings are: number 1, give me a glass of water to wash out my mouth.
Water. Bring water. Bring water.
Number 2, nice, but what else do you have?
Well, isn't that nice?
Number 3, interesting. What was that again?
Interesting.
Number 4, let's keep this secret to ourselves. Pour me another.
That's classified.
And our all-time favorite here for Sips, number 5. Oh my, I was unaware anything could be this good.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
So those are our ratings here for Sips on Sips, Suds, and Smokes. Today's episode is all about Spanish wines, and we have a bit of an overview here about Spanish wines in general to go over with you. So first off, all of life needs a soundtrack, and of course, our discussion of Spanish wines is going to have a Spanish guitar in the background. So cue the flamingo music in the background. Okay, I'm going to be butchering most of the pronunciation of everything in this overview of Spanish wine, so get ready to chuckle. Spain has over 2.9 million acres planted, making it the most widely planted wine-producing nation, but it is the third largest producer of wine in the world, the largest being France, followed by Italy. This is due in part to the very low yields and wide spacing of old vines planted on the dry and fertile soil found in many Spanish wine regions. This country has an abundance of native grape varieties, and we'll be talking about a bunch of these today, with over 400 varieties planted throughout Spain, although 80% of the country's wine production is only from about 20 grapes, including Tempranillo, which we'll talk about today, Albarino, I probably butchered that, Grenache, Palmino, Aran, Macabeo, Paradella, Axolocarina, and Monstrel. All right, I probably butchered about half of those grape varieties, so feel free to write in, let me know how I mispronounced it. I'll be sure and delete that email promptly and ignore most of your comments, but I'll get a chuckle about that as well. Major Spanish wine regions include the Rioja and Ribera del Duero, which is known for their Tempranillo production. It's drunk by a bunch of people in Spain who I can't even pronounce half of this. It's also known for high-quality Tempranillo at low prices. Jerez, the home of fortified wine sherry, and Rias Baxis in the northwest regions of Galicia, that is known for its white wines made for Albreño or Cantillon, which includes the cava and still wine producing regions of the Penedès as well as Pirat region. All right, I've butchered all of that so badly, I think that I probably need to sit down and start just drinking wine right now, and I'll probably get through the rest of this background. I'm sure that you are saying, oh my God, this guy doesn't know how to say one complete word in Spanish correctly. All right. Well, I have a bunch of other words here to butcher through this background on Spanish wine, so sit back and pour a glass of your favorite wine to enjoy the rest of this as well. So the Dominish de Origin, or the DO system, was created in 1932, and it's very similar to neighboring Portugal, Italy, and France. There's currently 2 DOC or DOQ regions, the Rioja and Prat. The DO has the Consejo Regulador, which acts as a governing control body that enforces the DO regulations and standards involving viniculture as well as winemaking practices. Now, these regulations govern everything from the type of the grapes that are permitted to be planted, the maximum yields that can be harvested, or the minimum length of time that the wine can be aged, and what type of information is required to appear on the wine label. The 5-tier classifications are present for Spain, but most of what hits the shelves is DO, or the higher DOC or DOQ rated. So today we're having all red wines to talk about. The red wine grape Tempranillo is second most widely planted grape variety, recently eclipsing Grenache in plantings in 2004. It is known throughout Spain under a variety of synonyms that may appear on Spanish wine labels, including Sensible, Tinto Fino, or Eau de Lebre. Both Tempranillo and Grenache are used to make the full-bodied red wines associated with the Rioja and the Penedès, with Grenache being the main grape in the Priorat region. In the Levante region, the Monstrel and Bobol have significant plantings being used for both dark red wines and dry rosé. Fascinating. Wow, I'm so glad I butchered only half of those towns and regions in that overview. Well, as the Spanish wine industry is ready to just shut their doors and shut off their radios, I'm butchering half of this overview. It's also becoming more modern because there's been a larger presence of international grape varieties appearing in both blends and varietals, most notably Cabernet Sauvignon, Chardonnay, Syrah, Merlot, and Sauvignon Blanc. Other Spanish grape varieties that have significant plantings are including a whole bunch of other grapes, and I'm just not going to butcher the name of those. All right, so I'm sure you've had a lot of fun with that, and right about now you should be on your second glass of wine because I'm sure that you want to hear all about the wines today. So without further ado, we'll move right on to those Spanish wines, introduce you to the rest of our hosts here, and hear all about these.
And now it's sippin' time.
Well, we are here at Craft Brewed once again and tasting several great Spanish wines for this round today. And I want to introduce our host for this discussion. This is good old boy Mike, and joining me is good old boy Ryan.
Hello.
Vivianna.
Hey, Mike.
And Billie Joyce.
Hey, how are you doing?
So this is all about Spanish wines that we're going to get to taste, and we have 3 Spanish wines that we're going to go through in this discussion today. And it's actually a tale of an experience that Ryan and I actually had here in the store one day, and I'll share everybody about this that story here in just a second. The 3 wines we're going to go through are, and I'm probably going to butcher these, by the way, so you guys can it's Creta Roble. It's a 2010 100% Tempranillo. Finca La Estacada, 2009, another 100% Tempranillo, and Con Blau, which is a blend, and we'll talk about what's in that blend, 2011 from them as well. So 3 really great Spanish wines for us to chat about, and a 4th one as well. So I happened to walk here in the store one day and got a stump the chump moment where Chip and Ryan handed me a glass and said, "Mike, taste this." This is my favorite game, I think, walking in the store, because I've blown so many things. It's like stump the wine chump of the day. And they handed me this glass, and I actually walked around with it and kind of swirling it and smelling it and stuff, and around the store. And I came back, and I was I can't even remember what I guessed. It was like completely wrong. I think that I guessed it was an Aussie Red. Probably, didn't I? And I didn't even come close to getting the grape. So it was a straight up a Tempranillo, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and it was Pingus.
It was Florida Pingus. Yeah.
So, and the thing that's very interesting about that particular wine is it's really made in small quantities, and so it's pretty pricey wine. It's I think that was like $140, $160.
Yeah, something around there. Yeah, it's not cheap.
Yeah, definitely needed to breathe. And so they didn't tell me about this when the conversation kept on going on and on. And they were like, "Well, how much would you pay for that, Mike?" And I said, I think knowing that it's a Spanish red, because finally you guys even told me the grape, and I'm like, I don't think that I would probably spend over $35 for a really good Tempranillo. And you guys just started laughing. I think just like that through the conversation as well. And you guys all looked at me and you were like, Mike, this is Pingus, and this is swinging at $150. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm sorry, but there's just I can't think of anything that would be 100% Tempranillo, that would be in that price range, or that I would probably say, I would really go back after it. So it was really great to taste it. Thank you for sharing it with me.
Sure.
Although I failed the test miserably.
That was actually the second label from Pingus. That's the one that's like the medium priced one. There's one that goes for much more than that. I'm sure you can elaborate more on that, Billie Joyce.
Actually, not at this moment.
Oh, really? Okay. I
mean, did you have the 100 is that the one you had? Was
yes.
150? I have had that one. I have not had the higher one.
I opened that at about 10:30, and
it had been breathing for, I think, maybe a couple hours.
Yeah, it had been open for a couple hours when you had it. Now, that night, I will say that it was one of the best wines I've ever had in my life. But it completely changed through the entire process.
Once again, decant.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it definitely made a huge difference.
It did, yeah. And so the conversation kind of evolved, and I was like, listen, let's open up some good Spanish wine and some straight up Tempranillos, and let's bring around the rest of the conversation, because I really thought that it would be a great topic for our listeners to understand that price and grape and winemaker all have this very interesting, relationship with each other. It got me into my general speech about, wine prices, and I'm sure the two of you have some very strong opinions about this. And I don't even know if they're the same as mine. We haven't even talked about this before, but wine prices have an awful lot to do with supply and demand. I think that is probably the one thing that tends to influence a lot of price point more than anything else. If you don't have a lot of it, even if it's not really great quality, you still have the ability of affecting, artificially supply and demand. And I think if you have a lot of, wine and it's really great, I think it's very difficult for winemakers to kind of, raise the element of price around wine as well. There are other elements of influence. There's marketing that really plays a very heavy hand into wine pricing as well. I would certainly say really great shows that rate wine, like Sip, Suds, and Smokes, have a heavy price influence on wine itself. But there are certainly other publications, I think, that can drive a premium on the price of wine as well. But when you guys think about that price point for Tempranillo, and especially the Pingus for $150, I mean, what was your general reaction to that?
Well, Pingus is that's a special house, and actually wine prices they start in the vineyard. They start on there's so many reasons there's a price of wine. Now, if you're talking about a cult type of wine, then like Pingus, I would say Robert Parker has probably one of the single greatest influences in prices in America of wine.
Yeah.
It's his ratings.
Well, and if I had to...
and was that not a 100-point wine or 98-point wine?
Yeah. Yes, it's one of the highest rated.
Well, and it reminds me a lot of the Opus line, here in the U.S., where you have something that's being driven by a combination of rating characteristics by publication and media, as well as the style of the grapes and supply and demand, limited supply and demand.
But the supply and demand part of that is actually driven by a media a media kind of frenzy. It really is.
Yes.
We are very much a brand-oriented society.
That was a poor comparison, Pingus and Opus. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's very different. But I mean, really, that's what people go for is ratings in America. I doubt that Pingus goes for that price in Italy or even in Spain.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
I mean, Vivianna, would you go out and pay $150 for a bottle of Pingus? I mean, would that
Personally,
for the right
probably not. Not really.
But you might pay $150 for something else.
I
that you
might
Yeah.
pay
Me
$150
too.
for something
Yeah,
that
and I
I
can
consider
definitely,
very
yeah.
special.
Right. Well, I really enjoyed that moment, and I hope you won't stop every time I walk in going, let's stump him today. Because he absolutely just nailed me to the wall with this amaretto thing the other day. I was like, oh my God, this is Calvados. And he was like, this is amaretto. And I'm like, oh God, you kidding me? So it was just, my palate was checked out for that day. That's all I have to say. So.
Blind tasting is very difficult.
And
I do it all
I
the
can't
time.
do it. I can't get close, but I'm not.
Well, let's chat about these three wines, because one of the things that we wanted to do is swing back around to our balance of our conversation is what does Tempranillo that most people on the planet can actually purchase and taste like, you know. So first up is Creta Roble here. It's a 2010. This is 100% Tempranillo. This is widely available. You can get this, in an awful lot of places. It's Eric Solomon joint venture with Isaac Fernandez. It's all tank fermented, which I think is definitely what plays into a little bit of some of my own tasting notes here as well. Although there are some that has been aged in American and French oak. This is a 70-year-old vineyard located at about 2,700 feet. Creta means chalk, which I didn't know that. I actually learned a new word here today, which is an important mineral component found at the top of the vineyards of Riba del Duero. I probably butchered that as well. So Tempranillo is definitely a good base grape, in Spanish wines. There's a lot of really great Tempranillos that I've had. The one that definitely I think of right off the bat when people say this is a wine that I just bought in just tons of it. And you'll faint when I tell you what it is. It was Castel de Remy and Gotem Brew. So there's a really great vintage that was actually, they've had some really good vintages that came through for Tempranillo. I probably brought 3 straight vintages of that particular wine. It was $5 a bottle. I think that I probably paid, I don't know, maybe $20 for a case, and I could just hand that bottle out all day long, to people and go, try this, try this, try this. It was a really great Tempranillo, and I thought they did a great job of bringing a very approachable Tempranillo to a broad range. The Creta here today that we're having, my tasting notes around that were, it's kind of tight cherries, is what I wrote down, and I thought that were kind of even tannins. I think that I wrote about this was decant and pray. was what I wrote about the Creta here for my tasting notes. So probably not a Tempranillo I may not swing back to, but I thought that it was a good representation of the vintage, the 2010. I'm not so sure that I was a huge fan of this particular one. My sips rating for this is going to be 2.
Well, isn't that nice?
But what else do you have? Good old boy Ryan, what do you think of the Creta?
The Creta is, there again, not my style. I don't necessarily gravitate towards something like that. I thought there was a bit of tannin to it. It was a bit tight. I got some darker notes to it as well. I don't know if anybody else did. There was a good amount of earth in that as well. I think we probably should have opened this a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
As Billie Joyce says, this needs to be decanted. Right now, I'm kind of with you. This is good, but it's not something that I personally enjoy or would buy. I'm going to give it a 2.
Well, isn't that nice?
Nice. What else do you have? Vivianna, what do you think about the Creta Roble?
I think I do agree with some of the things you guys have said. Probably something that I would enjoy in about an hour. Not a ton going on for right now.
Agreed.
I think my rating is about a 2 at the moment.
Well, isn't that nice?
Billie Joyce, what do you think about the Creta Roble here?
Well, I agree that it's about a 2. But
As well.
I found
isn't that
What else do you have
nice?
all the way around?
I think it had some pretty ripe soft. I mean, the stainless steel, you can tell that. And it's pretty, I feel it's fairly approachable. I don't know what the price point was. What did you pay for this, Mike?
This was $15.
Okay, because that's always important. If it was a $10 wine or a $15, it's an Eric Solomon wine, which he does tend to have good.
And I think that
Good Spanish
echoes a
wines.
little bit of some of the other rating characteristics from some other groups as well. And I like that we tasted this straight up. You guys had no idea how anybody else had rated this, so I'm glad we got to taste it that way. Well, 2.4 for the Creta Roble all the way around. Next up is a wine that actually Billie Joyce brought for us to enjoy, Finca La Estacada, 2009. Why don't you share with our group about what this wine is?
Sure. Finca La Estacada is 100% Tempranillo. This is the second wine up in their line. It's done 12 months in American oak and a year in bottle. It's 2009. 100% Tempranillo is La Mancha, but it's Spain is a very, very warm climate, so you tend to get a lot of that ripe fruit all the time. But this is a little higher up, and La Mancha is one of the hottest areas, most arid. But this is a little higher up elevation, so you have a little bit more cool climate. It's a brother and sister team. This is a winery that's been around for the winery itself has been around for a couple hundred years.
Well, really thank you for bringing this. My tasting notes around this this particular Tempranillo was deep cherries. I thought it was softer than the first Tempranillo that we had. I really thought it was softer for 100% Tempranillo as well. In fact, when you opened it, I asked you what was in it, because I did not think that it was 100% Tempranillo. I thought they would have been blended with a little bit of something else that would have been there. And so I was a little surprised it was straight up varietal, but I thought that it was the two things that I wrote down that was most important about this wine were, please pour me more, and it's drinkable now. So this would definitely be a Tempranillo that I would go back to. My sips rating for this is actually a 4. Let's keep this secret to ourselves. Pour me another. Good old boy Ryan, what do you think about this Tempranillo here?
This is the second time I've had to taste it, and here's the thing: when you can taste something twice, come back to it, revisit it, and it still is that good as when you can remember it being that good the first time. Yes, it's a very solid bottle of wine. And what is it, $10?
No, this you might have
12.
tasted this 6 months. This is a $14.99.
Oh, this is $14.99.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Okay.
Can I have a case of this today?
Yeah, I mean, for $15, this is an all-star coming out of Spain.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they have the 6 month, the 12 month, and you may have tasted that and that. But they're all. It's a very focused. They have a very focused palate. All of their wines. So.
Well, you can swing by Craft Brewed and get the second shipment of this, because I'm taking it first. So it's really, really great Tempranillo. Oh my God, $15. There you go. That's right in the sweet spot.
Yeah, I'd definitely give it a 4.
Wow, how about that?
It's there.
That's classified.
Vivianna, what do you think about the Finca La Estacada?
I think that, again, I tend to agree with what's been said so far. I find that the oak is very well integrated in this wine, which for me, it tends to be, my palate tends to have a problem with Spanish wine in that sense, and I do appreciate the freshness still of this particular product. So it's a 4 for me also.
Wow, 4 as well. I think it's because you need a good slice of manchego, and you need a good Spanish song to go with this. I'm thinking some really good Spanish guitar with the winds blowing off the med. See, it was all about the experience for you. All right. So, what did you think about this wine, Billie Joyce, as well?
Well, this is something new for us, Bonus Bev, which is our new little, I'm going to put that in there, we're a new little distribution company here in town. And we've had
Which is doing a great job, by the way.
So there's 2 of us out there kind of going. And, but I do feel like, for me, I get a lot of strawberry off this, which is typical and standard Tempranillo. That's it's strawberry is the thing, and a little dustiness. And I'll be honest, this thing opens up. This is actually quite tight still compared to what it opens up. This is a wine that will, if you drink alone and you only drink a couple glasses, the next day it just turns into something else. And if you decant this, it is. So I would say this is a 3 or 4 in the sense of by your score here to say, yeah, I'd like to try this again.
We'll stick with 4 as well,
Okay.
all the way around. So, cuatro. Next up is a blended wine from Spain, and this is Con Blau, is the blend that we're having here. And I'm going to butcher some of these grapes here, so you fix me right. All right, Billie? So it's Mazzullo, Syrah, Grenache, or the 3 blends. That's 40, 40, and 20 between the 3 of those. This is the first time I've actually had this particular blend. Actually, the first time I had this wine. So this is a 2011, and this is also widely available in many U.S. markets. Very well rated by some other places, but I look forward to our impression about this wine as well.
It's a Montsant, so that's the region by Priorat, which is down. So Priorat's the number 1 region in Spain as far as, well, I shouldn't say number 1 region. It's the most interesting and one of the most expensive regions.
And it's also becoming very trendy at this moment, too.
Yes.
It's kind of climaxing.
Right, because it is.
Hitting that.
And Montsant is around the foothills of Priorat. So if you like Priorat, Montsant is a good second go-to.
Well, my tasting notes around this wine are, wow, what a great blend. I thought the Syrah was very forward, in the blend. So I've had, the other base grape, as a varietal before, and I don't know that I was a huge fan of it. So I probably like it better as a blend than I probably would, as a varietal. I wrote down, so it was interesting. I was writing different, cherry. I don't know, my palate must be spinning around cherries this morning because I wrote tight cherries, deep cherries, and for this one I wrote twisted cherry. So I don't know where that was going, but
I'm not sure I know what twisted
I know. We'll pour the bourbon. I'm sure it'll all work out on the back end. So I felt myself, kind of puckering quite a bit after I had this and almost feeling to scrape the back of my tongue. And that really was coming through with kind of a heavy palate, around this. So, my rating for the Con Blau is actually a 4 as well. Let's keep the secret to ourselves. Pour me another. Ryan, what do you think of Con Blau here, the 2011?
Of the 3, I think this one is the most complex. I think it's the most diverse. I love blends. Blends are hot right now. I think you can get the total package out of something that has more than one varietal of grape in it. How much was this, did you say?
It should be under 20.
I would say...
it's under 20.
Yeah, I want to say that's about right. I want to say about $18, I think.
Nice. I would buy that all day long.
Yeah.
I'm going to give that a 4.
Well, a 4 as well. Vivianna, what do you think about the Con Blau here?
To me, out of the 3 wines, it's definitely the one that is standing out. So once again, I agree with the general ratings in here. I really like the grittiness and the powdery mouthfeel of the wine. So
that's a better way than saying it I did. So like gritty. Well, gritty was the right word. Yeah, I was just trying to think. It wasn't earthy, but gritty is the right word. It has a lot of. It's heavy on the palate. It has a very big mouth feel to it. So I like that word. That's pretty good.
So it's definitely a 4+.
Wow, how about that Con Blau as well? Billie, Joyce, what do you think of the Con Blau here?
I think it's great. It's important for people to know Mazuela on the grape is Carignan. So part of what is giving it that deeper, darker thing is the Carignan grape as well as the Syrah. So, and I've sold this before. It's a really good value, great tasting, very American palate friendly wine. It's got the fruit and everything else. And if people are looking in Spain for something that is more similar to what they're drinking, Montsant and Priorat are the regions to go to.
Wow. So what's your rating here on the Con Blau?
I'll give it a 4 as well.
Wow, I like that all the way around. Well, there you have it. Very great discussion about some really fabulous Spanish wines. Was that 1 or 2 cases to go of several of these?
That's it?
Yeah, wow. And I really enjoyed our discussion. Once again, I want to thank my co-host, Ryan.
Thank you so much for having me.
And Vivianna.
Thank you.
There's something playing in the background every time I say your name. I don't know what it is.
Is it Pavarotti again?
It's probably Pavarotti again.
You better watch it.
Billie, Joyce, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us for this SIP segment on Spanish wines. Hopefully you've enjoyed our discussion. Please take the time to capture your comments on Facebook, on Twitter, on iTunes, or any of the outlets that you're enjoying our show. Feel free to call your public radio station. Demand that they put us on the air for your particular radio station as well. For right now, I want to thank you once again and ask you to keep on sipping.
This has been a One Tan Hand production of Sips, Suds, and Smokes, a program devoted to the appreciation of some of the finer slices of life. From the Dude in the Basement Studios, your hosts, the Good Old Boys, will see y'all next time.